invention story, which I'd like to share. There were two, but I've actually forgotten the second one. But my multiple choice was, all right, so the first credit card was invented under the name of American Express, Visa, MasterCard, Diners Club.
Oh, I see. Okay. Well, look, if you'd asked me about the first ATM, I could tell you about that because the first ATM was Barclays Bank in London. Yeah. But first credit card. So it's Visa, MasterCard, American Express, or Diners Club. I mean, the weird thing is nobody accepts Diners Club anywhere, right? Like, I suppose maybe if you go to really swanky like hotels or whatever, they are prepped to accept your Diners Club. But basically everywhere you go in the world, everyone's like, oh, we accept everything except Diners Club. and the fact that Diners Club is still around despite this can only be because they must have the money and the wealth of the wealthiest in the country and in the world, and they must have there must be something to them. They must be the first, because why would the wealthy stick with something that old unless they were getting some other kind of vendor? So I'm going to go with Diners Club just because I can't logically get my head around the fact that the new technology, I think MasterCard and Visa must be the new technology because they work everywhere. Everybody's happy with them. So Diners Club must be old, resistant technology. And I don't know enough about American Express, so I'm going to go with Diners Club.
Give yourself a round of applause. That was quite brilliant. Yes. So it was way back in 1940 where a chap went to a restaurant in New York, and when he called for the bill, he was very embarrassed because he didn't have his card. And luckily, his wife had money. It's like, I left my wallet at home, and his wife paid for the bill. But he was like, I never want that to happen again. So he approached that very fancy restaurant in New York with an idea the next week, and it was just really a card of paper, cardboard. It was like, but how about this? You give everyone this, and then they can just hand this into you.
So you basically saying to them, we check your credit beforehand, and if you've got one of those cards, we know you're good for it.
Yes.
We know you're good for the money, yeah.
Yeah, and it sounds a bit silly, but within the next year, 10,000 people in New York had a Diners Club.
Sure.
So
I'm sure it became one of those status symbols. There's a story about how Nando's got famous in London. Right?
Yeah, because it was a South African thing as well, eh?
Yeah. So Nando's went to London, and they had very small budget because they're a South African company, and now they want to establish themselves as a takeaway in London. And as we now know, they've established themselves so successfully that British people say, "Oh, we're going out for a cheeky Nando's." I mean, many of them think that Nando's is their kind of takeaway. But apparently the way that they established themselves quite cleverly, one of their early advertising techniques, and I don't, this could be an urban legend, I'm not, was that they gave away a thing called the black card, and they gave it away to guys who they thought were young, kind of 16, 17, and about to break through in their particular scene. So they were going to become famous musicians or hip-hop artists or skateboarders or whatever it was. They were going to become the next big thing. So they would give these out and say to people, this entitles you to one free meal with your friends once a month. And these guys started talking about it, and it became a status symbol that if you got your Nando's black card, it meant that you'd made it as a young kind of celeb.
Wow.
And it was their social media stuff.
It's the first influencer thing,
kind of. I would just,
before influencers was
in a way.
the thing it is today.
Yeah, so it was very clever.
We're influencers.
We're influencers. We will influence you not to drink so much when you're researching your podcast. But yeah, so I believe that's true. I would love for Nando's to be able to tell us the true story.
Mm.
If you know Nando's, if you're from Nando's, maybe pop us an email and we can verify the veracity of this particular story.
Oh wow, man!
On the next podcast, that would be nice.
It's very cool. I've got a nice story which I want to tell you. But my granny's brother, Uncle Basil, my granny passed away, and Uncle Basil passed away. But he was visiting.
Fact. I think that's true. I think Uncle Basil has died.
He did. He was visiting.
Aha, I got you. It wasn't Uncle Basil. It was Uncle Tom who died.
And he lived in Durban, and he I don't know what he did, but I think he came up with a few products and sold them, and did quite well. Uncle Basil. And Uncle Basil
came up with a few products. You mean he was making his own meth It's
yeah.
like it was a Breaking Bad situation.
The one thing he invented and he was trying to get a patent for was a little product called an egg topper. But the way my granny was short and Uncle Basil was short, and it was so cute to see these two old people. And it's like, oh, Basil, you're being silly. No, Mary, this is the next big thing. No, Mary, this is it. No, Basil, that's silly. No, Mary, you must take one. So the egg topper was, when you put...
Chop the top off an egg.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, everyone always messes that part up. But you put this there, and there's a little thing that stops the knife, and you just whing, and you just make it a nice swift cut. Boom. And then the knife is stopped by this little other plastic thing.
But hang on, was the knife the invention? Because
the egg topper. So it had a handle and a plastic thing and a circle and then another thing to stop the knife, all attached. And so you placed the egg topper.
I don't think it's the knife not stopping that creates the egg to be messed up. I think what creates the egg to be messed up is the fact that the knife is not often sharp enough.
Well, you can't
so
give it
kind
horns,
of
man.
breaks the.
No, you can't give it the full shebang.
Is that what it's about?
I think.
You think so?
So
No, I think it's because the knife isn't sharp enough, Ryan.
No,
I think this podcast needs to end. I think people need to subscribe.
Uncle
click
Basil's
like.
Egg Toppers at unclebasilseggtoppers.com. No, I'm joking.
Click like if you think that the egg topper is a garbage invention. Click share if you think it's a great one. I don't know if can you click share on YouTube?